okay, I'm going to go get my other gun. That's the dude that I'm talking about. You thought he was just a big actor. This dude was one of the most dominant players in NBA history. For whatever reason, Marcus Johnson is not in the Basketball Hall of Fame. But you got Dino Raj and other clowns. I mean, no disrespect to Dino Raj. He had a great international career, but I just don't think he should be mentioned in the same breath as Marcus Johnson when you put in where Dino Raj, no way, no how, should be in the Basketball Hall of Fame before the homie Marcus Johnson. If you can figure that out, then you let me know. Next up, former Westinghouse Warrior, former DePaul Blue Demon, native Chicagoan, Mark Aguirre. If you don't understand why I believe, of course, I got a Westinghouse bias here. And if you listen and you know me from Chicago, then that's the school I went to and all that. Mark Aguirre was the very first player ever picked by the Dallas Mavericks. Their very first player. They started their franchise with him. His career scoring with the Dallas Mavericks is 24.6 points a game. And then he started to tail off because he was at the end of his career. Now, he walked in the door at 18.7. They list him at 6'6". If Mark Aguirre is 6'6", I'm 7 feet tall. You got 4.9 total rebounds and 3.2 assists a game. And he was more of a scorer because now he's 18.7 to 24.5 to 25, 29.5, 25.7, 22.6, 25.7, 25.1, and then that's when the trade happens, and he goes 18.9, 21, and then he goes down to 15.5 points. That's when the trade happens. He started winning NBA championships. He is a 2-time NBA champion, 3-time NBA All-Star. You've heard me mention him while I was big up in other people in the MVP conversation. This is a dude who spent the majority of his career as the go-to man. And since this is a basketball award, he was in the MVP shares 3 times. He's finished 11th, 15th, and 14th. Let's just look at his 83-84 season. That's his 3rd year in the league. He finished in the top 11 for MVP behind the Doctor, Magic, Bernard King, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who was picked after him, Isaiah Thomas. And that's clearly an East Coast bias. Isaiah Thomas is my favorite player in the history of the league, but that's an East Coast bias because nobody's looking for basketball in the Midwest and then definitely in the state of Texas. But Isaiah Thomas, Julius Erving, Adrian Dantley, Sidney Moncrief, another dude, Jeff Rulin, Moses Malone, and number 11, Isaiah Thomas. Look at the guys that have finished in front of Mark that year. These guys are legendary in the league. Look at the numbers that Mark was putting up. This is the dude who was college player of the year before, #1 player picked in the draft, 2-time NBA champion. Some of these dudes that I named, including, some of these dudes like Bernard King, Bernard King don't even have a more impeccable resume than Mark. But Mark, they're about neck and neck. But Mark has 2 NBA championships. Y'all tell me NBA championships are the end-all, be-all. And if NBA championships are the end-all, be-all, and Mark has 2, then explain to me, Mark has 2, and a National Player of the Year, took the college team to the Final Four, took the Dallas Mavericks to the Western Conference Finals, and and I'm looking at this on Basketball Reference. Basketball Reference gives Mark Aguirre an 8.2% chance of making a Hall of Fame. That, my friends, is flat out insane. Flat out insane. McDonald's All-American, AP All-American, first team, and back-to-back years his sophomore and his junior year. He took the team to the Final Four his freshman year at DePaul. Player of the year, people. Player of the year in college. Kicked ass and took names in the pros. This dude should be in the Basketball Hall of Fame, averaging 20. Even after he sacrificed a lot of his game to win 2 NBA titles, this dude still finished and he turned into a shooter. He probably was let me look at this. He was probably a 50% shooter for that he was. Rookie year, 48%. 45, 46%, 48, and then 50, 50, 50, 50, 50, 49, 47. And as he tails off at the end of his career, of course your numbers go down because you lose a little bit of that you lose a little bit of that athletic ability that you used to depend on, and of course your field goal positions go down. Michael Jordan's did, Shaq's did, Wilt's did, Marcus White did. So if you ask me, Marcus White is another player who's being held out of the Hall of Fame unjustly. The dude was awesome. He was one of the best players of his time, and I do believe that he should be in the Hall of Fame. My next player is a dude, another fellow Chicagoan, one of the greatest point guards in the history of the game. Tim Hardaway was putting up numbers that rivaled Magic Johnson. Are you hearing me, people? His numbers rivaled Irving Magic Johnson. They list Tim Hardaway at 6 feet tall. Tim Hardaway about 10'6", 5'10", 5'11". He 5'11" on a real good day. But when you look at his numbers, he walked in the door at 14.7, 8.7 assists, almost 4 rebounds a game at 4.9. Then the next year 4, and his assists goes up, and then his points go up to 22.9. The next year he goes to his rebounds take a half percentage point. Actually, his rebounds he's steady at 4, but he get 10 assists a game for the next 2 years, and he 23 and 21, and he blew out his knee. After that, he struggled with he bounced around for a little while, went to Miami, but he still look his last year in Golden State, 14 and a half, 6.9 assists. His first year in Miami, 10 assists a game, 17 and a half, and he continued that at a steady pace. Tim Hardaway was one of the most explosive guys in the league. Tim Hardaway was the quintessential point guard, if you ask me. You look at Tim Hardaway for the killer crossover and things like that. The reason I call him the quintessential point guard is this. I saw Tim Hardaway go 0 for 16 in the game. He scored like 14 points, 0 for 16, but his team won by 12 that night. When you go 0 for and your team wins easily, you are a true point guard. He's a 5-time NBA player, All-NBA player, 5-time NBA All-Star on the All-Rookie team. Tim Hardaway put in work over a glorious career. The one time he could have started in the NBA All-Star, on the NBA All-Star team, which is, look, this is what I want you to understand. Tim Hardaway was in the Western Conference with Gary Payton and Magic Johnson, Kevin Johnson, John Stockton. And he still would have started an NBA All-Star team, but he gave his one chance to start an NBA All-Star game up to Magic Johnson after he retired after being diagnosed HIV positive. Tim Hardaway, 90-91, 19th is MVP vote. The next year, 91-92, 8th in MVP vote. His best season is 96-97 when he finished 4th in MVP voting. Tim Hardaway finished behind Karl Malone, Michael Jordan, Grant Hill, and it was Tim Hardaway. Tim Hardaway was 4th in MVP voting. When you losing to Michael Jordan in anything, when you are barely finishing behind Michael Jordan and Grant Hill, everybody on the list that he's in goes behind him. They're either in the NBA or Basketball Hall of Fame, or they're going to the Basketball Hall of Fame. The very next year, he loses to Michael Jordan, Karl Malone again, the very Gary Payton that I just mentioned, Shaquille O'Neal, Tim Duncan, and Tim Hardaway. He finished this after blowing out his knees twice, being in Miami at age 31, finished in the top 6 in MVP. Look at some of the people that he beat out for, and we got more MVP votes than David Robinson, Vin Baker, Grant Hill, Scottie Pippen, Glenn Rice, Antoine Walker, Jason Kidd, John Stockton, Mitch Richmond, Reggie Miller, Rich Smith, Michael Finley, Rod Strickland. The only people that he didn't, it's only one out of the 18 people on this list, he finished 6th. There's 12 people that he beat out. Out of the 12 people he beat out, 9 of them are in the Basketball Hall of Fame. But yet, somehow, someway, Tim Hardaway is not in the Hall of Fame. Please help me understand that, people. I just don't get it. I am totally confused with the fact that Tim Hardaway is not a Basketball Hall of Fame. I can't get over it. And it's not a Chicago bias, even though I'm not going to lie to you. I do have a Chicago bias. But in this instance, I'm just tripping at the fact that a dude that's explosive, and after he lost his explosion, he still continued to be a very dominant basketball player. And I just don't get it, man. I'll go to my grave unless he gets in before I go to my grave. I will always wonder how in the hell is Tim Hardaway not in the Basketball Hall of Fame. It is amazing to me that Tim Hardaway is not in the Basketball Hall of Fame. And with that Freudian slip, a dude who was exactly the same age as Tim Hardaway gets drafted in the same draft class as Tim Hardaway, 3-time NBA All-Star, 5-time NBA All-Star, 5-time All-NBA, 3-time NBA All-Star, Most Improved Player 88-89, a dude who rode the bench behind Mark Price for a couple of years. They ultimately traded him to the Phoenix Suns his third year, in the middle of his second year in the league, where he went from averaging 7.3 points a game off the bench to averaging 12.6 points, and then he took off like a rocket ship. 20, 22, 22, 19, 16, 20, 15 and a half, 19, 20, and then 9.5, and then he ultimately retired. While he was handing out that work, he was still handing out 5.5 assists, 3.5, 3.7, 8.7. Then he took off again. 12, 11, 10, 10, 8, 9, 7, 7, 9, 9, 3. Kevin Johnson was one of the most. Kevin Johnson was, I believe, I like to compare him to Derrick Rose. Kevin Johnson was the Derrick Rose before Derrick Rose. He was the most explosive and athletic point guard that we had ever seen at that point. He was off the dribble. He could beat you off the dribble. He could beat you standing still with a jumper. He could beat you on a pull-up jumper. He finished 8th in MVP in 1989, 7th in 1990, 15, 11, 10, and 17. Let's look at his closest chance at winning an MVP. The first year that the Bulls were Michael Jordan's year, because when it was 1991, Michael Jordan won 1991. So this is a dude who only finished behind, again, he finished behind 6 of the top 50 players in NBA history: Clyde Drexler, Karl Malone, Charles Barkley, David Robinson, Magic Johnson, and Michael Jordan. He also beat out a bunch of people in the top 50. Well, dude who should have been in the top 50, Dominique Wilkins. No disrespect to Scottie Pippen, but no sir. Should have never beat out Dominique Wilkins. Larry Bird, Terry Porter, Patrick Ewing, John Stockton, Isaiah Thomas, Robert Parrish, Joe Dumars, Bernard King, Kenny Smith, Hakeem Olajuwon, Tim Hardaway, and Kevin McHale. When you are losing to those type of people and beating those kinds of people, this is why you are my number 2 guy not in the Hall of Fame. Now, one of the reasons is his name has been sullied in a little bit of controversy. We'll never know the truth. I'm not even going to get into it because I don't want to sully the man's name any further. Like I said, this is a dude who dominated the NBA from a whole lot of different perspectives. He could give you buckets. He could score. He's setting up people at the right time. He put you in position to dominate. One of the things that you didn't get out of Kevin Johnson is consistent health. Kevin Johnson was he was a health issue waiting to happen. It was just a situation where he couldn't stay healthy. That's not a reason to keep out of Hall of Fame, because we got a whole lot of guys that are in there that are in the Hall of Fame that should when you look at them, if you're gonna hold health against them, they need to be kicked out the Hall of Fame immediately. My number 1 guy when I look at my Supreme Court, I'll talk about
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
The number 1 guy, in my opinion, who's been slighted in the NBA. Well, he ain't the number 1. He's just my guy. The biggest name on my entire list, and a person who had the most dominant career, if you ask me, of all these people, is one guy that you probably don't even know his real first name. His real first name is Macy. His real name is Macy Edward Christopher Webber III. You know him as Chris Webber. This dude was a forward center from the University of Michigan. Walked in the door, immediately took his college team to back-to-back Final Four, losing the championship game. First game they lost to Duke. They should have lost the second game due to a mishap of his. He's taken away. We're not gonna get into all that. This is not to talk about what Chris Webber did not do. Now, he was a total rebound champ. One year he was the NBA Rookie of the Year. He was all Rookie of the Year, 5-time NBA All-Star, 5-time All-NBA. This dude was dominant on the boards. He walked in the door with 17 and a half and 9.1, 29.6.